It's another episode of Privileged Bow Hunter. I'm Andre Thompson. What I want to talk to y'all about today is thumb releases, and I want to just give you the pros and cons of that. Before we get into it, though, make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are subscribed, just double check, make sure you got the notification bell on, and we'll get into it. So I'm gonna start with the bad news first. All right, so the bad news is if you get a thumb button, you better make sure that you can afford 2 thumb buttons, because this is a little bit more high-end release, and but what that comes with is some things can go wrong. I'll tell you a brief story. Flew over to Lanai to go and hunt some axis deer, and it was the last day, and I dropped my release right in the morning. So I got out of the vehicle, my release fell, and I thought everything was all good, but when I went to try to clip it on my D-loop so I could start walking in, I just couldn't get it I just couldn't get the trigger or the cocking mechanism to actually fully engage. So I kind of, gave it a couple of those, tried to knock it around or whatever, and I was able to get it to close, and I thought everything was good because I could do this and I could make it fire. But what actually ended up happening was at full draw, I cannot make it fire, right? So if you look at the how to basically open one of these up videos, clean it out, refurbish it, replace all the springs, that video that we posted probably a week or so ago, if you look at that one, this is that one that had failed back in I want to say June. So I ended up buying this one to have a backup, and then I had the same issue happen with this one. So all of that story is to say, if you're gonna buy one, make sure that you're gonna need to make sure that you can afford to buy 2, or buy a second one shortly after. Another thing that can happen, these are a lot easier to lose than a traditional wrist style release. A wrist style release is strapped to your wrist. It's pretty hard to lose that. But this, if you put it in one pocket or the pocket's unzipped and you're walking and stalking and you're crawling around, this could easily fall out of your pocket. They come with a wrist strap, but most people take them off. They don't like it. So just make sure if you're gonna get this, at least have some discipline with it. So for me, in my hunting pants, I always keep it in my right cargo pocket, and I always zip that up. I don't set it down. I don't put it in a chest pocket one day, back pocket another, same one every single time, to build some discipline. Um, these are a little bit heavier than your wrist style releases. So that means if this falls, you got a greater chance of creating some damage. So if you're like me, where you're kind of hard on your gear, you just got to know that going into it. If you're the type that your gear never gets scratched or bumped or anything like that, and your bow still looks brand new from 10 years ago, that may not be a con for you, but I just want you all to be aware of it, okay? I would say the pros of having a thumb button style release is, number one, is that you don't have that leather wrist strap or whatever material the wrist strap is made of. And I say that because, like, I remember with my wrist strap, over time that leather would start to get worn and worn and worn. And as it would get worn, it would stretch a little bit, which meant the caliper itself would be in a different position. It seemed like every week when I would shoot, which was affecting my anchor point, which obviously will affect your accuracy, right? So that's one pro over a wrist style release. It's going to be consistent. This is metal. It ain't moving, all right? So that's pretty simple in my mind. Another pro is, I think you have a less chance of being or developing target panic with something like this versus they call them a wrist rocket for a reason, right? Folks get it and they get to full draw, and as soon as that pin gets on whatever they're aiming at, they just punch it off, right? Um, the mechanics of this are built a little bit better for you to not develop that punchy style or that target panic. And that goes into the next pro, right? So just like you see this thumb button, there's also a back tension style that's exactly the same. So you can transition back and forth between thumb button and back tension style releases seamlessly without changing your anchor point. If you develop some target panic with a wrist rocket and then you decide to go to like a silverback for a back tension style, your anchor point is going to be drastically different, and you're probably going to have to move your peep height, which is going to affect your sight. So if you just kind of want to train and then hunt, right? If you want to train with a back tension and then train with something that you can command a little bit more, another pro of this release is if you know something is going to walk through a specific shooting lane or a specific shooting window, you can throw all the perfect form out of the window and just punch it off when you get that opportunity. And you have a really good chance of still making a really good shot. With a back tension style release, if you punch that off, if you just go ahead and like try to pull through it and yank through it, it's gonna affect your front arm too much and you're probably gonna pull a bad shot. So just the interchangeability between back tension and thumb button is why I think this is a great style to go with. So you heard the pros, you heard the cons. Let me tell you what I went with. I decided to stick with a thumb button. And the main reason was I really got tired of having to adjust to another hole on the buckle on my wrist style strap. It just would get worn and worn and worn. And I knew that it was affecting my accuracy. And I started to get to a point in my shooting where I could actually notice the differences. So that's why I went with this. I made it for a long time with just one until that trip on Lanai when I dropped my release and it started to malfunction. Thankfully, I didn't have the buck of a lifetime come out in front of me and me not to get this thing to be able to go off, because I probably would have lost it. But now I have two. I know how to open them. I know how to clean them. I know how to keep them functioning properly. So in my mind, this is definitely the go-to. I keep one in the pocket and I keep one in my pack at all times when I'm hunting. All right, so y'all know what type of release I like to use. I'm going with the thumb button. Leave below in the comments what you like to use. If you're a wrist rocket, or if you like a hinge, if you like back tension, whatever you like, drop it below. Leave me some pros on why you like to use it, or some cons, or anything that I may have left out. Anything that you might disagree with, I welcome that as well. It's PRIVILEGED. I know you know how to spell bow hunter. We love y'all. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace.